Hello, everybody. Hello, my co-host, Killer B. Let me invite you up. Okay. So, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Paranoia Initiative. And hello, Killer B. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm very excited about this conversation. I was kind of thinking, what am I going to talk about tonight? What are we going to discuss? About how paranoid we are. Conversation earlier today, and this came up, this topic, and I was thinking about how I had to have it as my topic for tonight, and it was super last minute, but it's so important. And I think a lot of us as Bitcoiners feel this, this attention economy. So that's going to be our topic for tonight. I want people that are in the space tonight to come up and talk and share and sort of tell us if you feel like Bitcoin helped you escape that that attention economy, that you are being mined, that your intention or your attention is a resource. Your attention is something that I learned about actually in my early orange pilling days when I first found out about Bitcoin. So I wanted to talk about this for any of you coming in today. I wanted to talk about the idea of being mined. And I remember watching a documentary called The Social Dilemma. So that actually was one of the things that sort of opened my mind to how we're being manipulated. And that sort of got me into Bitcoin in a way. That was part of my story. So that documentary really stuck with me. If you guys haven't seen it, it's called The Social Dilemma. And what they said in that, which I changed my mind about what they said, was your attention is the most important resource being mined today. Since becoming a Bitcoiner, I realized that Bitcoin is the most important resource being mined today, but the second most important resource is human attention. And that was mind blowing to me to think that, because during 2020 is when I got orange pilled. And during 2020, there were people staying at home, there were lockdowns, the news was chaotic. Everyone was hyper focused on the news stories and Twitter and trying to get as much information as we could. And the most toxic of stories and the most extreme stories, whether it's political or any kind of news, that really hooks you, is something that gets our brains firing off dopamine. So people get this hit of, it's like a drug, so when you see something just borderline, like nothing that's too exciting, you just keep scrolling, it's nothing. But when you see something really polarizing, or something that sparks either anger or you know fear or something like that, those are all things that spike up our dopamine in our brains. So it becomes addictive to people. So not only are people addicted to this media, this attention, this clickbait type of stuff, but it's also, this is what made me realize that during COVID was, everyone was staying at home watching TV. And then all the companies were making so much money, all the tech companies, they made bank off of our attention, because they're, uh, you know, social media companies sell your attention and things they know about you to a bidder, to an advertising agency. So they're buying things they know about you. They're buying your data. So that was something that was really interesting to me. So they want you to stay hooked because they can show you more ads, and that makes them more money. So even if it's an impression, showing you these ads, whether it's YouTube, Google, your Gmail accounts, you get spammed with Gmail or with email all the time, advertising stuff. The more that they can get you, the more, um, the more that they can engage you, you can get sucked back into this, doom scrolling or whatever. So I see Pleb with his hand up, but I want Killer B first to kind of touch on this topic and let us know your thoughts.
So, Yeah, so I mean, like attention economy, basically, it's a lot like surveillance capitalism, right? Um, so like basically, what people are doing in business now is trying to like turn a human experience. Like you see a lot of that, like even in like in one of my jobs, I had to take like TikTok tutorials to learn how to TikTok, right? And I had to do this little like academy thing and like learn all this shit. And they basically they incentivize like the human experience. Like just be you, just be natural. If you're a business, just do normal business shit. Go and count all the springs in your spring box or whatever you do. And like, it's like the whole point is to keep people on the platform and clicking through. It's got nothing to do with, you know, how true something is. It just has to appear true, right? It doesn't matter. It's even the I don't know, even like if you get into like, you know, you say your particular algorithm leads you towards like inspirational quotes and self-help and like you can do this and just do one thing a day and all that stuff. I mean, it takes all of that it takes all of the things that actually matter about what's being said and makes them all contrived after a while because you keep hearing the same thing over and over again and you're just flipping through the next one, and then sooner or later the message that you hear kind of runs dead in your ears, so now you've got to find more like emotional content, right? Now this also kind of works to the inverse, right? Like sort of that rage side of us. We want to see a fight. We want to see people angry, and then you go into that algorithm, right? And whatever we're feeling, whatever we're going through, it's literally all the same to them. They don't care. They're literally farming emotions.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're farming your emotions because they know that your emotions keep you hooked, keep you searching, keep you getting more impressions, so that ad companies or marketing companies they could sell you more of their product. So your emotion leads to sales. So human attention is extremely important these days. Probably the second thing next to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the most important resource. But to these companies, it really feels like it really is what is happening. So I want to hear from Pleb. I see you have your hand up, and then Johnny's next. And for anybody else who has seen this, or if this was part of their orange pilling journey, or any other insights you have on this topic. But it's crazy to think that people aren't seeing that it's a manipulation tactic in order for companies gain. And yeah, go ahead, Pleb.
Hello. I'm normally quite down on the old fiat world, but some days more so than others. And I sort of just get fed up of the whole fiat shit. But what you're talking about reminds me of a scene in The Matrix, if you all remember, when he gets taken from uh, being basically a battery. His energy is being farmed, which is exactly what's happening with all of us in the fiat world. We're just a battery fueling the fiat train and being used for turnover, for profit, to keep the fiat train going. And everything surrounding it is just to blind you from what's actually going on, which is a completely corrupt and broken system. So that's my
Yeah.
thoughts on it, pretty much. I wouldn't say any of that is what Orange pilled me. I think I've always said uh, I was. I tend to see it that I was a Bitcoiner before Bitcoin existed, and I think most of us probably are because we're all similar types of people who question
Mhm.
certain things that go on in the world. But I mean, my orange pilling came a little bit after Bitcoin was created, but for various
See,
reasons I've
one of
gone
those
into before.
One of those things you mentioned was the movie The Matrix, though, and so many Bitcoiners are, they know that movie and they refer back to that movie once they find out about Bitcoin. And Johnny, I
Mm.
want you to come up next, so don't put your hand down if you want to come up to speak. You're oh, he left. So if anyone else wants to come up to speak, maybe he had a connection issue. That's what I'm thinking. It's he didn't just leave the space, right?
Maybe they got him.
Um, Maybe they got him. They
Yeah.
knew he was gonna say something important.
Donnie, we hope
Uh,
you're okay. Blink once if you're okay.
Smith got him.
yeah, right, Smith. Jeez.
But here's the problem. Hey guys. Um,
Hey,
I am well. Here's the problem with the idea of attention. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think Naval Ravikant said, your attention is your currency or something of that chart, something of the sort. I believe he said if someone takes your attention, he or she is also taking your energy. I forget how he put it, but the idea was that the entire system is incentivized to grab your attention for multiple reasons, right? It's either to get you hooked onto something, which is mostly the case, but it takes a sinister turn on top of it by keeping you distracted from what you should pay attention to. Like, you're paying your attention, right? So you're paying it in the wrong direction, and you get and you get subverted by all these shenanigans, and something else happens in the background. Uh, we recently saw certain events from last week that really, put this to the test, and they passed. Like, people can get distracted by something horrific, uh, while the powers that be can pass certain rules that may not be for your benefit. So that's so
Jeeves,
it is very powerful. Like, the way the system works, it's incredible.
you know what else
Yeah.
is very
So,
powerful? It's very powerful what you mentioned, paying attention, because the attention is a currency of sorts, so you're paying that. You're paying your time, your time that you could be spending doing anything else. You're paying that attention to whoever is trying to grab it. They're trying to hook
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So, and so everybody that's in here right now, I just want, can you guys all hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
we can hear you fine. Yeah.
So, and Jeeves, you can continue speaking if anyone else wants to come up to speak. This is a very interesting conversation, and I just love this topic because when I was talking at the beginning about how I watched a documentary called The Social Dilemma and how the most important resource being mined is your attention, which as Bitcoiners, I said earlier that Bitcoin is really the most important resource being mined, but your attention is, I guess, second. But this documentary talked about how these technologists that worked for these early companies, Google, Facebook, YouTube, they are pretty much whoever comes up with the best model to um, to predict your behavior wins the game. So the more addictive they make it, and the more they know you based on your data and what things you will spend more time looking at. So whether you're very much into politics or however they make this algorithm work, they want to know you very well. They even so the people that were in this documentary were actually employees of these companies that stopped working for these big companies, and they were talking about what they built, and they were just trying to do the best at their job, and win. But they were realizing after the fact that they know so much about your data and they profit off of it. So all the tech companies that make so much money selling things they know about you, they're making billions and billions of dollars. So really what they're saying is that your attention, that time that you spend there should really be yours. That's why your data is important. And that's why they were going, all these tech companies were going to court back then, and there was a big discussion over data, and everyone thought, okay, who cares if they know my data and where I go? It's because it's your data, it's things they know about you that you could get paid for, not some tech company that's making billions and billions of dollars off of what they know about you. Um, so yeah, they make it highly addictive. And when it came to something, for example, Facebook, it was interesting to me that they mentioned when you get tagged in a photo, they could just show you on the app that you were tagged in this photo, but they purposely make it so that they send you an email saying you were tagged in a photo, but they don't show you the photo so you can go check Facebook and get hooked into the algorithm loop again. So it's on purpose to make you go to it, check it often. Somebody that you haven't looked at in a while or somebody they know that engages you will show up. So anyway, who else wants to come up and talk about this? Has anyone seen this documentary? Was this any sort of this sort of idea realizing you're being manipulated? Was any of
I
this
want
to
to
do with Hmm?
really quick, I just want to kind of state something. This is just a little thing that you can do for yourself. Um, Turn your notifications off on your phone for social media. It will ask you every so often, oh, it works better if you get to, because that's what they want from you, right? They want you to keep clicking in, whatever. If you're on X all day anyway, like half of us psychopaths, I don't know about you, but my phone runs dead when I turn on my notifications. Um, so I have to leave them off if I want to be able to even look at the phone. So I mean, for me, it's a good idea. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the minute you take all these notifications off your phone and just, you know what I mean? Like, then you only get bothered by the spam calls.
Right. Well, here's the other thing I was thinking about earlier when it came to this topic. And that is very important advice for anyone that doesn't have pretty much every notification turned off. Yes, do that because it will make you feel so much more at peace. But it's funny because the Bitcoiners, when you become a Bitcoiner and the more this network grows, and you're taking money out of the fiat system, so you're moving to a different system. But besides taking our money out of the fiat system, we are taking the second important resource away from the fiat system that they rely on. So, as Bitcoiners, I feel like once you discover Bitcoin, once you realize this truth, and so many of these parts of our society are affected by money, whether it's wars or political gains or all these different things in our world that we think are one way, but once we find Bitcoin, we realize how much manipulation happens. We care less about those things that they try to get us to focus on so hard. So we almost are extracting that very important resource as Bitcoiners. So we're removing that from that system. So that's a scary thing for them too, because they're not just thinking Bitcoin is the most important resource. Now the human attention we used to control, we no longer control. So Jeeves, go ahead.
Yep, control, and also how they kind of hook you in, right? Like, um, that's why when you posted this, I kind of said, the good old saying, if it is free, then you are the product, because that's what that's their gateway to grab your attention. Um, this was something that I kind of stumbled upon in a book that I picked quite by accident, right? This is called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. And Dan Ariely talks about particularly how we put value to things. And usually the power of free is one of the things that he talks about. And he says we irrationally overvalue free stuff. Even when like they're not the best deal. Uh, so some of the experiments show how our psychology works when we end up between, if we are given options between free and something that's better, but you just have to pay a price, you would choose the free one, which is kind of like below par kind of product, just because it's free. And because that's the emotional pull you have, that you kind of tie yourself to, and kind of that anchors your choice. And this free stuff is everywhere. Like we use Google, or whatever, like when we use like the Gmail, you think they're not using the email, the information that is supposed to be our personal information. Somebody sending you an email with whatever attachment, you think it's really personal. It's not really personal, right? They might be reading it and you have no idea because we just gloss over their terms and conditions and we just say, okay, because you cannot use their products otherwise. It's very simple for them to say, we can't give you these products if you don't agree to these terms and conditions, and they keep changing it over time. Nobody has the ability to really decipher any of that legal jargon, but that's where you get hooked up, and then you're hooked up for good. We can't go without using Google Maps, so they know your location. They're probably listening to me right now. I don't give a fuck at this point because what can you
Yes,
do?
I agree.
Right?
Yep, they're listening. Somebody's
They're,
in
Yeah,
here
they're,
listening.
that's
but,
welcome.
yeah, unless I have a way to completely move over to a platform that really does not, and I'm kind of exploring that, right? I'm kind of exploring that avenue right now. As I got my Start9, I'm kind of looking at how I can actually have, and there are because
Oops,
now I
I
have
didn't
my
mean
own
to
personal
laugh at
server.
that. I meant to clap. I meant to
Oh
clap
no,
at
no,
that.
that's
Jeeps.
fine. No problem. But the idea is that we should have secure, like even us talking on X or on Discord, it's really not private. So
Hmm.
at some point, maybe, right, the Bitcoin army needs to kind of transition out of this whole setup and really,
Well, even if it's right, use something maybe like Nostr, but even if it's the
yeah,
manpower that would go behind to listening to everybody's conversations, well, now we have AI, so the
we
AI
have
can
AI.
really
Yeah.
quickly
So they,
pick
they
out keywords and look for stuff.
yep. That's
Hmm.
like the the scene in um, uh, the Jason Bourne series where someone is speaking over the phone, like the press guy, I guess, like an investigative journalist, and he says Black Briar,
Hmm.
and then the CIA is all over him because he
Right.
said the keyword Black Briar. I'm like, what
Hmm.
the hell, And think about it. Probably
That's
they
real
they
life,
they may
guys.
have like, yeah, they have systems. Probably they had systems back then, and that's why it came into Hollywood. But now
Hmm.
it's kind of running on steroids because you don't need humans to record stuff and then report
And
to people. It's
listen.
now like AI is listening to you all the time and reporting if you talk something that, yeah,
That's why we got
there you go.
encrypted chats here next. Wait, but Journey, I want you to speak too, but I also want Cousin to go ahead. And thank you, Jeeps, for that. That was so true. And I'm glad you're running a Start9. Hey, Cousin.
Hey, sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, are you thumbs downing us right now?
Oh no, like it says my microphone says request to speak. I was trying to give you the signal like, "Hey, it's not letting me."
Yeah, he's trying to say something
No,
about this topic.
Jeeves legit yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I came up here to say.
Mm,
Jeeves and I are on the same wavelength on this one.
it's a hive mind,
But
guys.
yeah, but if it's free, you're the product, and we look at these things, Google, Apple, um, things like Spotify, like all these major Facebook, all these things are aggregators. They're aggregators of information on the front end, but they're aggregators of the users on the back end, collecting our information and feeding us. This is like X is. I've never had social media before. This is the first social media I've ever had, and I
Hmm.
got it in January. So to be honest, navigating this at first was just a little difficult. I'm
Hmm.
kind of to the point where it's like, well, bug them, I guess.
Yeah, right. Bug
Like
'em.
at this point, um, you know, I I'm the product, and I guess I'm getting that little dopamine bump in my pocket, even though I do not have notifications on. That's
Yeah.
um, but yeah, every time I check my phone, and there's that little number there. It's like, ooh,
Well, at least on X, we have
ooh.
some sort of common passion. We have a community here. So that's not, it doesn't feel the same as being just like shown ads constantly and clickbait stuff. But it's like you were saying, those people that benefit from your attention, they're like the sentinels from the Matrix.
Absolutely. Love that.
Hmm. So, and Journey's up here to speak too, and we have whoever else wants to hop in if anybody wants to come to talk about this. But yeah, I do agree as Bitcoiners, or I agree what with my own statement, but I'm thinking that Bitcoin allows us to remove an important resource from a system that benefits from it. Because a lot of us don't care, like fuck them, you don't care about some of the stuff that they're trying to trick you with.
There you go. That's what it's all about. Breaking free from all aspects of the system. I mean, what incentivizes this? You know what I mean? What could possibly incentivize wanting somebody else's attention except to monetize it? It's lockstep fiat slave mindset.
And it's not for the benefit of people, it doesn't help us. It just makes them money and it increases polarization in society. They say ever since this started happening with these social media, the more data they collect and know and sell, they sell your data, but it created such a polarization in society. Like we didn't have this before, because it's the extreme stories, it's the clickbait stories, the stuff that you don't know if it's true, but it's just spreading like wildfire. It's just the rumors or the most hateful or the most enraging topic or the most anxiety inducing topic. Those are the ones that really get people's brains to start firing. They say they look during that documentary, they would show people posts or show people YouTube short stories, and they would look at the brain activity. If they showed you something that was, let's say, political, but like middle of the line, just telling you regular news stories, not far right, not far left, and people's brain activity was normal, but then when they showed something to the one of the extremes, the brain started firing off and you could see the difference, so there's studies like science, that goes behind this, and actual, so much they know about you and why it affects you. So Journey, if you want to go ahead.
What's up? Paranoia Initiative, freaking phenomenal. I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm not paranoid.
You're not.
I'm gonna
You're
start it with
not
that. I'm
paranoid?
not.
Not even a
I'm
little
not.
bit?
And
I don't believe
I'll
it.
tell you
I don't
why.
believe it.
I'll, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Um, I'm not paranoid because I am paying
I'm
attention.
paranoid that you're not paranoid, though. Okay, but you are, because you are
Yeah.
paying attention.
I'm not paranoid because I'm paying attention. I am. It's just what attention are we actually? What kind of attention are we actually paying? Maybe the question that needs to be asked here, because you get, like, you know for example, you guys talked about notifications, right? For me, I don't have any notifications. I don't have any social media. I don't even see the freaking number on my X app. I even turned the number off.
Wait, George
Um,
even yelled at me because I have so little bit of notifications on my phone that he goes, "Please turn your phone off, do not disturb." I'm like, "It's not on do not disturb." But he's like, "I'm texting you. I don't even have banners show up to show that I got a new text." And he's like, "Do something about that. You never know I'm texting you." So that's how little bit I even have on my phone, which is kind of bad. So I ended up fixing that because
I don't think it's bad. I really don't
Mhm.
think it's bad. You know why, Stacy? I don't think it's bad. It's because you are conserving energy for the things that matter to you and the things that you want to pay attention to. And I think people around the world don't have that option today because they are surrounded by shit that's going to distract them, by shit that's going to you're being mined. You're being mined, and you're being told to pay attention to things that legitimately have no way or shape or form. They have no concept of being in your life, and yet it's still there. Um, I'm gonna bring in a couple of examples. Like, I was just at the bank right now. I wanted to take out $100. I got the bank is closed. I went into the bank. The ATM is open. I put in my card in the ATM, and it goes, the ATM's out of paper. And I'm like, what the fuck? I can't even pull out $100. I can't even pull out $100 when I want to. This is how broken and stupid this shit is. Like I just think of myself maybe a year and a half ago where I was in a situation where I needed money from the bank at like 7:30, 8 p.m. And if the ATM wasn't working, I was gonna fucking cry because I had like refinance and like friggin' mortgage amounts, dude. Shit, like it was gonna be bad. And there are people like me that are here to the people like me that used to be like me that are here today in the same situation of turmoil. And there I would say the turmoil is self-imposed as much as it is macro caused as well, because you give in to the attention, you give in to the dopamine, you download TikTok, you doom scroll for hours, you watch the news, which is just biased propaganda anyways. And by the way, the whole news media cycle is causing civil unrest because I'm not sure if you want to get like my paranoia leads me to the fact that everything is being everything has an underlying theme of control. Like you need civil unrest in order to have state surveillance. You need left versus right in order to have, government officials come in and say, "Oh, you guys are not behaving the way we want you to behave, so we are going to now use AI in order to surveil everyone." Fuck
Well,
you.
see,
And yeah, sure, people
because real quick, because you said I'm not paranoid because I am. Oh, wait, what did you say at the beginning?
paying
Because you're paying
attention.
attention.
I'm not
So
paying.
that actually goes
Yeah,
back to that point that as a Bitcoiner, when you start paying attention, you're no longer a slave to that. So it's like you start to see that it's manipulation. Where before you are a Bitcoiner, I'm sure you were
yeah,
much more manipulated, and it was a lot
one hundred
easier to
percent.
get that part of you. And now that you can see through that matrix, you can see through what's being done, how you're being controlled. Fear is being used to control people, and and I just think that you see through that because of that. That's why you're not paranoid technically, and that's what the joke.
I think I might have to change up. I might have to change up my stance. I am paranoid. I think you said it better. I think on a fiat standard, when you're in turmoil, paranoia relates to or can be synonymous to anxiety, and you have no idea what the fuck to do about it. And on a Bitcoin standard, paranoia is intent
Right.
because then you know completely what to
Yes,
do with
and
it.
that's why
And
I think
yeah,
paranoia is like a funny one of those funny words that I like to call ourselves paranoid because we know we're not paranoid because we could see, but people that are still stuck in that world, they look at us like we're being paranoid. So it's really just how they view us as paranoid people. Um,
yeah,
so
and like one more incident or one more example I'll give you, and it's just like everybody's been like for the past few months, all I saw people asking for was the Epstein list. Okay, Epstein list, Epstein list, Epstein list, Epstein list in the media everywhere. 3 hours after Charlie died, rest in peace, Senate quietly blocks the release of the Epstein list. Nowhere in the media is there any talk of this anywhere. I don't see it in Canada. I don't see it in States. I don't even see it on social media. You know what I saw 6 hours ago? I saw 6 hours ago that FBI Director Kash Patel stated that Epstein never trafficked minors to anyone other than himself. You have what the fuck? I am so pissed off.
it's so
I like,
ridiculous,
and
and
nobody's
nobody
gonna talk
believes
about this.
that shit. It's like it's so ridiculous. I thought about that too, sadly. I mean, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. What happened was horrifying, but I hate to think this because when things happen, when something dramatic or, something that catches people's attention, if it was just anybody, people wouldn't really be talking about it for a long time. But because it was somebody with a platform like his, somebody that a lot of people, adored or liked, because this happened to him, I hate to think that it was, you know, it's probably not. It was probably just some crazy person. But if it was a bigger picture thing, it could have been in sometimes in my mind, even if it wasn't coordinated, just to think that the media or the distraction forces of the world are so excited they can use this as fuel to continue fueling polarization and hatred for both, towards each other. So I just like to wonder, what is that taking our attention away from right now? So when you're trying to watch all this news and figure out what's going on, there's something else going on in the background, like you were saying, you know?
Well, it's nothing. It's nothing but a proof of weapons network. That's all it is. That's all fiat is. If you look at everything they're doing in terms of distraction, it's nothing other than trying to fuel their proof of weapons network. So what do plebs like? People are like, okay, well, how does this relate to plebs or on a micro scale? There are several things you can do on a micro scale to, really guard your attention. Actually, more, I would say, guard your attention like your reputation. It's worth everything. It's worth absolutely everything. Like, how do you keep yourself safe from proof of weapons? Well, you want to, like you guys talked about it, turn off your notifications, control with intent how much you want to, doom scroll on social media. Put like time locks on your apps. Get rid of things that are an utter distraction to your mental peace. These Once you get rid of these, like, you know, I hate saying this because it's like, I love chaos. Once you get rid of these kind of chaotic things in your life, and the only way to get rid of the chaotic things in your life is to understand that chaos does exist and you have to pinpoint it. But once you get rid of them, you can then come into this area of your brain or mental, like, like just landscape of how do I, because you've helped yourself and now you're like, how do I help others? And it just becomes more of an empathetic thing, I think. And that's a world that, like, you want to be the change you see in this world, right? So, like, I want to be free, so let's do everything I can to be sovereign. I want to be more empathetic and caring about others, and because I want to see others win as much as I win. And then how do we then take that into our daily lives? Well, work out, stop the attention doom scrolling, pay attention to your family, talk about things that are super passionate to you, and try to educate. I think that's the only way forward here with using paranoia as a tool. Because how else are you going to keep yourself safe from a proof of weapons network? I don't fucking see it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love what you said, and I want to hear next from Let's Get Sideways or DK. So you're going to be coming up here. I love what you said though about guarding your attention, because as Bitcoiners, your attention means your time. So you're guarding your time and you're saving your time. So I love that take. So DK, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, hi guys. Thank you for having me up. What Journeyman said, everything very agreeable. The one thing I wanted to highlight, he did bring up when they brought the Kirk assassination to light in the media, and how I think he said something about they passed to block releasing the Epstein list. I wanted to add, I think they also passed something about if people boycott or states boycott Israel, that you will be lose some type of, I don't know, citizenship, or your visa will be
Yeah,
revoked.
it's passport
Yeah,
revocation, but I thought
and
that failed.
I don't know if it failed or not, but what you said before about the proof of weapons, it really highlighted, like, how everything, how they say not to worry, and then you see all this shit happening in real time, and you're like, oh my god, like, this is actually going down right now. And it really kind of just reminded me of, like, I don't know if you follow Simon. He's a really good talker on the weapons and military industrial weapons complex, which is, the whole surveillance thing and everything whatnot. And before that, when Journeyman was talking, I think he said he's not worried because can you guys? All right, so
Yeah,
yeah, I
I can
think
Yeah.
hear you.
before the whole the bill passing thing, Journeyman was talking about how he's not worried because he watches, and yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Yeah, I feel like we don't have to worry. Everybody in this space, if you are in the fiat mines, um, saving in Bitcoin, investing in the assets you have full conviction in, like, what's there to be worried about? Because, like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, we see all this shit, but majority of the fear is in our mind. Like, we create the scenarios in our mind, which creates the fear. But, like, and that's from, like you said, all the time you spend on your phone looking. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I come home from work, I get into the dining room and I'm staring at my phone. 15, 20, 30 minutes go by and I'm like, holy shit, like I need to go upstairs, you know? And but I just want to highlight that it, like I said, like if you're here in this room and you're consistently saving in Bitcoin and investing, like you already won. You literally already, even if you don't feel like you won, you already won. Like you literally already won.
Yeah, like fear is a motivator, right? And fear of the unknown is probably the most basic of like motivators that there are for any animal, right? And we are, you know, for lack of better, understanding in the scientific world, we're categorized as animals. So, you know, the thing about like the unknown, right? Especially when and that's really where conspiracy theories kind of come from, because a mind will accept any explanation over zero explanation. So, that's where these like, where false rabbit holes can go, right? Because we want to find a conclusion for why did this happen, or what's going on here, or what are they really doing. So, it's I think it's almost as if we need to have those conversations so that we can sort of Occam's razor all of the bullshit and maybe get to like what's really going on.
Yeah, and like when you are scared, you're more likely to do like what you're told, thinking like, oh, they're here to save the day, but that's not it at all. They want to keep you scared. They want to keep you weak, and in the cycle of just debt, you know, like go to work, you don't own nothing, you will pay rent, you will pay your taxes, and like that's it, that's your life, there's nothing else outside of that. And like how I'm talking right now, I'm sure I'm painting a picture. Everyone's probably painting a different picture in their head, and that's like what I was saying before, is like, damn, like that's the fear that's getting created. But you can't buy into that bullshit. You have to look outside, and like, just like Journeyman and X Stacy was saying before, put your focus and attention to other things. Like, don't get stuck putting all your attention into things that aren't going to really matter for you in the future.
That was very well said. Yes. That's the most important thing. And I think that, you know, because they're trying to mine your attention, instead you're taking control of your attention, taking control of your time. Hi, Secure Sovereign. How are you?
Hey all,
Hey, thanks for coming.
glad to be here.
So what do you think about this whole you're being mined situation?
I think it's good advice. I think there are a lot of forces that want to misdirect your energy, and we should prioritize ruthlessly what matters.
Yes, that ruthlessly,
Ruthlessly.
yes. With laser eyes, ruthlessly. We will do it that way. It's so important. Just because we realize what Bitcoin is our time spent, and we're saving that time spent without it allowing it to be debased. We are also saving our time the same way by not allowing someone else to manipulate us and control that time. And Killer B, you keep going down as a listener. What is going on? You have this somebody's on to you, I think. Hold on. Let me invite you back as co-host. Okay. So he is back, I think. We will see. But yeah, anyone else who wants to chime in on this topic, I think that that's one thing somebody brought up was, maybe it was Journey, maybe it was Jeeves, but I think I kept wondering, what are we being distracted from? What has been going on since the Charlie Kirk event, that we are not paying as much attention to, that we really, that is kind of a big deal that we're being distracted from. So we have Max up here, we have Mr. Twit, and we have Kbot 2, who will go in that order. KB, welcome back as co-host. I know somebody got to you.
Yeah, no. If I lose connection, I'm either apprehended or I'm outside
Mhm.
entertaining. So, you know.
Okay, well, at least you're not apprehended right now. So, Max, you want to come up?
Yeah, can y'all hear me
Yes.
okay? Awesome. Yeah, great topic. A couple things that were standing out just to add on to what Journey and DK were saying. Um, there's so many narratives now, and it's always about the narrative. And like it's hard to find information because the narrative takes over. And in 2014, the rule passed that media and news could become propaganda. So the same channels that used to run the news are now propaganda, and no one told us, right? So we've all slowly woken up to it, but they didn't wake up and say, hey, now we're a propaganda machine. But in essence, these channels went from news to clickbait. And it was kind of clicking with me when DK was speaking about it is, you know, click clickbait works really well with your fears, with your angers, and we see it all on Twitter. And so your Twitter is basically what upsets you or what excites you or what gets your attention. And that is taking over the entire narrative and story. And so the facts have kind of disappeared. And so the thing that came up recently, we talked about this Israel bill that Rubio was trying to pass. When I looked at it, and again, I'm happy to be fact checked. My understanding was it was a bill around only those with visas, so it wasn't U.S. citizens. It's not to say it's still like a immoral bill, but it was being passed off as United States citizens are going to get attacked if they say the wrong thing. And so, again, just one example of we've all got this narrative that we've heard about, but do we read the bill, right? Like we've all got this narrative about so many things, but because we all have short attention spans and Twitter propagates those things, maybe we don't get the facts. And again, I'm happy, this was kind of a sidetrack for me, but it's just an example of seek information. Do not seek the narrative. The narrative's going to be there. If you're passionate about it, seek the information. If you're not passionate about it, then just ignore it, right? It doesn't matter anyway. And that's what I came to realize is there's so many narratives I just don't care about. And so, my major point is we are being controlled from the moment we're born. There's a story I really like of a child who, from what I can tell, a true story, was lost in the woods and raised by animals, and he thought he was an animal, right? And so you can grow up as humans, we're very adaptable and evolve, and you can grow up and be taught anything. And I think the best way to break free is to kind of unteach yourself as many things as possible and always be seeking information because as a baby, you're taught what you can and can't say and do. And all of that is based on the system that we're all living in. And so I think the war that is happening now is around information. And so 100% agree with what's been said before about keeping the main thing. Who cares about everything else? Focus on your family and what matters to you. But I think if you are passionate about something or you want to enter into a sphere of, the conversation, focus on the facts and the information and try to just avoid the narrative completely because the entire system is built on the narrative and we are feeding it.
Yeah,
That's what we are telling them what's pissing us off.
you are.
And so that's what they make their money on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, Max. You are another example of how Bitcoin starves the machine of that resource. You are another Bitcoiner who has found Bitcoin and is cutting off a blood supply to the machine because it benefits or it needs human attention to survive. So I want Mr. Twit to come up, but Secure Sovereign has his hand up as well. So if you want to come up after Mr. Twit, and then we can get to K-Bot. You hear Mr. Twit, my Fortnite friend? Let's maybe go to Secure Sovereign first if he's not ready, and then we can have Mr. Twit come up.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to dovetail with whoever was just speaking, whatever they were saying
That
about
was Max, yeah.
about childhood and
Mhm.
Max. Thank you. The childhood is so important, and I think honestly, when we're talking about how do we improve the future, we need to really talk about parenting. And Bitcoin is helpful in aligning the incentives for parents to feel secure in their futures. And by feeling secure, they actually are more introspective generally about how they treat each other and their families and their children. And Bitcoin is critical to aligning the incentives such that families raise their children better, and then those children who are raised better do not accept the fiat fraudulent world that we have all been confronted with, that we all come to accept one way or the other. We have no choice. And
Oh my God, dude.
frankly, it just boils down to this. It just boils down to this, okay? The fact of the matter is that our children, by and large, are raised in such a way that their worldview is predicated on violence. They understand that intimidation, whoever has the biggest gun, whoever has the biggest muscles, those are the people who win the argument, not the people who have the best argument, not the people who have the most Bitcoin or the strongest positions, the strongest evidence, the strongest data. Those people don't win. The people with the biggest guns win. And Bitcoin changes that. Bitcoin realigns the incentives so the people with the best ideas can win. And it may take a generation or three, but I think we're going to get there.
Imagine like the first child born never knowing fiat. Like the first kid that wakes up like the first kid who like spends its first moments like without wires, like
Yeah.
or like holes where the wires used to go from the fucking matrix.
What an amazing, yeah, they don't have those ports on their back, you know, they're not connected at all in any way to that world and secure. But yeah,
Exactly.
what you were
Exactly.
saying,
Right. No. And then just to finish that up real quick, the fact of the matter is we inculcate our children in a system of intimidation and violence, and then when they grow up to confront a world predicated on intimidation and violence, that is comfortable to them. It feels just like home.
mhm.
And if we want to abolish systems of intimidation and violence, we have to first start at home.
Yeah,
That's
well,
all.
that's amazing because that shows that, you know, what Killer Bee was saying, imagine the first child, and what you were saying about parenting, and that just makes Bitcoin parents that much more important because you are raising these kids in an environment where they see aligned incentives, they see good humanity, good behavior, you know, spending their time the way people should spend their time. So thank you so much for saying that. That's so important. And we have Mr. Twit back, and then we'll go to K-Bot in general. Can you? We can't hear you. I don't know if you are trying to speak, but oh, are you? You're muted. Maybe his connection is bad. I'm paranoid about that. I don't know why. K-Bot, if you want to come up.
Hey, thanks for letting me speak,
Mhm.
Stacey. You're a
Welcome.
distinguished host.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
so, listen, everyone, I would like to know first, hello to everyone. I
Hi.
am a Bitcoiner. I am a blockchain technologist and a financial technologist, and I'm very bullish on the digital assets industry. I would want to ask of everyone, what can I do to serve the Bitcoin army?
Ooh, run a node. Are you running a node?
Uh, no.
That's our mission. That's our mission. Everyone in this
Yeah.
room serving Bitcoin, not just the army. You're serving Bitcoin by running a node. And that is something that we want to make sure that if you have questions, reach out to one of us on a, you know, a simple way to do it. There's multiple ways without spending any money, with spending a little money and having it be a super, super easy setup. We have so many answers and we would love to help because
Yeah.
that's the mission.
Like
Fantastic. I will do that.
like
And
Hmm.
yeah, like what you do is dope, bro. And you know, if
Yeah.
you want to join the army, you know, like we really only request that you know, you keep your specific thing separate. Like you can talk about it with people among the army, but like on the timeline, it's like Bitcoin only, and
Mhm.
that's just like to keep the atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's not to say you can't like do what you do or like what you do is wrong or anything like that. Like we all exist in a fiat system, so we don't. It's not like a discriminatory thing, but it's just like
Yeah.
our message and our ethos is like just one specific thing.
Yeah, and
But yeah, if and
I
it's
think
it's
if
an easier way to like ask questions, you know, and learn how to set things up. You know, there's tons of people who know, you know, all kinds of things from mining to like coding to everything.
Mhm.
So it's a good community to be a part of.
Continue to show
But
up.
if you just want to,
That's
Yes.
really, if
yeah,
you want to
yeah,
help
that's
TBA, keep coming. Right?
Yeah.
yeah, come to conversations. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like we don't always talk like about Bitcoin. We talk about like world things, and sometimes, the conversation drifts into other conversations, right?
Right.
But we do keep our signal pretty clear, right?
And this
So
community is
yeah,
Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, we need Bitcoin, and Bitcoin also needs us. So that's why we encourage people, and we have this challenge to run a node, because that supports the Bitcoin network, it decentralizes it. And I know that we have let's have Secure Sovereign come finish up too, and then we'll have Mr. Twit and Gemworld after.
Thanks,
Is my
everyone.
mic
I'll go down
working?
to the
So
audience.
Yes,
let me,
it is working now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
finally.
Go
Yep.
go ahead. Whoever was up
okay,
next,
but
I'll wait
thanks
my
for
turn.
coming, man.
no, please go ahead.
It's all good. I'm going to go back down. I'll save other questions for another time. You guys are
No, no,
great.
no.
Thank you.
Oh, well, yeah, just come
Yeah,
back up.
reach out too, like like yeah, just at one of us. If you ever have any questions or anything, we're always happy to have a conversation. We're
We're
always happy to help.
Yeah, even
we're
if you
here to
want to
lift
come
All
back
right.
up.
we're here to lift others, K-Bob, right? So that's what
Hmm.
TBA is about. So you coming up here asking what you can do for us,
Yeah,
continue to lift up all our members, right? Interact with each
that was
other. That
incredible.
that is the biggest part of TBA is the camaraderie, right? The membership, the fact that we interact one on one or with everyone in the army, right? There's no more contribution you can do other than being there for each other, right? And lifting.
All right. Let me put that to the test. Let me put that to the test. I'm going to put that whole that notion that you just put forward to the test.
Hmm.
Okay. We were just talking about Bitcoin nodes. All right. And there's a big debate in the community right now about like knots versus core and all this stuff. I personally tend to be a little bit on the side of the core contingent rather than the knot side. I know
Hmm.
most of you are on the other side.
Hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, yeah, go ahead, go
But
ahead.
but but
Hmm.
hold on. So I am an engineer. I've spent about 20 years programming, coding, and stuff. And so yesterday, literally yesterday, I opened up Bitcoin Core in my artificially intelligent assisted IDE, interactive development environment. And then I asked the AI, I asked a very simple question. Please extract all of the useful protocol and mathematical relationships that are embedded in the Bitcoin course 400,000 lines of C++ code and give me just basically the orange paper, not the
Hmm.
white paper, but if Satoshi
Ooh, I
were to
love
take
this.
Bitcoin as it currently is and extract all of the mathematical truisms from it and then build like an orange paper, a white paper, but as it is now. I did this. It's about 1,000 lines. It's actually not that complicated. It took about 10 minutes. And so then I thought, well, if I can throw together this, basis for a protocol right here, why can't I vibe code 1,000 different implementations of Bitcoin Core
Ooh.
using this using this
Yo, you
protocol
know what?
document? Why is it so
Secure
complicated?
Sovereign. You are saying exactly what I was.
Bro, listen, hold on, bro. You took me on such a
Right.
ride,
You
bro,
have to keep talking.
such
I'm
a
sorry,
ride, and
everybody. Oh, we want everyone to talk, but this,
I want to thank you for
yes.
that. But go on.
I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking instead of 400,000 lines of code, we have about 50,000 lines of code. It is an actual factual reference implementation. And then we hold everyone in the Bitcoin core or Bitcoin client space to task. And we say, are you compliant with Bitcoin
Oh my
protocol?
God.
Are you
You're a genius, by the
really?
way. This man is a genius. He's a technologist, and he was on my show, and he's incredible. But you said what I felt like an intuition type thing. And what I felt was this whole debate between knots and core is healthy for the Bitcoin's immune system, for Bitcoin's immune system, because as I just imagine a future where, okay, now knots is rising up, core is rising up, then we're going to have other nodes rising up, and we're going to have a forest of nodes instead of just, a one monopoly of a node, so software. So I think that that's kind of what you're saying, right? Oh my
Yes, that's
God.
exactly what I'm saying. So, right. So, but then the problem is, and I'm sorry, a lot of you have been following this whole knots thing and very much in the camp of knots and loop and all that stuff. I'm not in that camp. I do not hold the same positions that you have, but I would very much like there to be a plurality of strong alternatives to
Mhm.
core and knots.
Yeah, it's like I think it's healthy. It's like just like a diverse ecosystem is healthy, and you have, all these different nodes
Yeah.
running. That's incredible. You just like
I mean,
verify.
as far as I'm concerned, yeah, like I'm not aligned with knots in any more way than I'm aligned with like any other thing out there that is like greater than myself outside of like the Bitcoin art.
Hmm.
So like I don't care if it's Luke, I mean, yeah, thank him, thankfully he did a lot of things that he did, right? And thankfully Calais did a lot of things that he did at some point in time. Like he's just not the person that he was then now. Like, there's some shit going on that is just not okay. Um, your idea
I was actually just had a
is,
conversation with someone about this. They told me, not to do it. They told me explicitly that if I did this, I would get so much harassment, I would be
Ooh,
bullied out of Bitcoin
I'm an
before I
anarchist.
knew it.
So,
that's not happening. That's not, as dude, as long as I have fucking breath in my lungs, that shit's not happening.
yeah.
And he
You know
was
what
being
I mean?
nice
You know what
too,
I
by
mean?
the
Like
way.
I'm,
He wasn't trying to be like, he wasn't saying he would be the one bullying
Oh,
me.
no,
people
I
will
mean,
do
but
that. But I think
no, yeah, you're gonna catch fucking wrecked, man, for real. But
but we're gonna
like,
celebrate you because how badass
Oh,
is that?
okay.
You're such a badass. So you could do this, and you thought, wow, leveraging my technology, leveraging this AI and all the stuff that you could do, and come up with other iterations and be able to have diversity. That's actual, because I thought about Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin miners are all over the world. It's global, it's decentralized. But the nodes, we can have a decentralized version of nodes. And so it doesn't matter right now what that new person that was asking, I followed him, but he was asking what he could do for the Bitcoin army. We said run a node. Yes, everyone run a node, but it could be everyone has an opinion. Cool. Everyone run their own version. And Secure Sovereign is here. Are you building this right now? Like, have you done it or are you doing it?
Okay, all right. So I'm building
oh,
something
that's
else. To be honest with you, this to be so I'm a very ambitious
I
person,
know that.
but
Yes.
coming up with my own alternative Bitcoin core implementation is a little too high of a bar for me. I would like
so
to. I personally like
just
to.
happen to drop that technology somewhere where somebody else can pick it up, maybe.
Yes.
Well, so I've already put
True.
together an orange paper, which
Oh, I
is,
love that.
but and I'll link that to you if you
Yes.
guys want. But the main thing is, I personally would like to build up momentum in the community. Perhaps we could get, what I would like to see is a base layer, like a real base layer client implementation, reference implementation that's like 40, 50,000 lines of code. And then instead of just having 2 players in the game, you've got
Oh
100
my
players in the
God.
game. You've got everybody with their own like idea about what Bitcoin should be. And of course, it must still adhere to consensus and all of
100%.
that stuff. And I'm not talking about a hard fork or any
Yes.
of that. Okay, so that's not what I'm talking about. But
I mean, how many
nonetheless,
different versions can we really get? Like, how different would it really be?
I think you would be surprised,
Ooh,
sir.
that's awesome. He's
Yeah,
like, I've done the work.
that's
I've put
pretty.
in it.
That's I'm excited for it because if say
This
the
is
army were to get so big and have all these
this is
factions,
This
each
is
faction could have
this
its
is
own version.
serious shit right now that's going on. We're like, Secure Sovereign.
All right, no, well, let me take it up
Yeah.
a
Oh,
notch
take it up.
even
I thought you were
further.
gonna say
All
take it down, but yes, take it up.
right. So problem is Bitcoin's technical consensus layer is perfect, but Bitcoin's social consensus layer will buckle under pressure, as it already has in the past. And because of AI and the very smart people here in the community, I am certain that we can solve the social consensus layer, that we can solve the governance problem, and that we can have in Bitcoin a governance layer that is as robust, if not more, than the technical consensus layer.
What do you mean by
instead of
fixing the
relying on
social consensus layer?
shadowy developers and Luke Dasher, we have a plurality, a plethora of
My
alternatives
neurons
and
are
options and
firing right now. My
But what
heart.
do you mean by fixing the social consensus layer? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, so currently, I would argue, and there may be some other people who might argue differently, and I would open the floor to them, but I would argue that currently the governance structure of Bitcoin is GitHub as governance. If you have permission to press that merge button, you therefore are, you are the dictator of Bitcoin. And that in effect, in reality, is not how it plays out. But it should not be optional. This is a $2 trillion network here we're talking about. This should not be optional.
I love this. You should be the official Bitcoin army leader of this movement. This should be.
Wait, but Stacey, so you're saying if you have GitHub, you own Bitcoin?
I heard someone else say this too.
No. If you are in the group of the 6 core developers who have merge access to Bitcoin Core, the only thing stopping you from merging whatever you want is GitHub.
Yes,
There's nothing. There's
I
no
think
governance
who told
structure.
me?
No
Somebody
layer.
told me this recently. So I love that you're bringing that up, because they said, do you think that as Bitcoin grows and trillions of dollars enter Bitcoin, it's all just going to be GitHub? Because that's where it is now. So it's like it needs to be decentralized. It needs to open up and have other. Oh my God, this is so mind blowing right now. Secure sovereign.
Well, I'm going to
Oh
take
my
it up even a
God,
notch
he's
even
taking
further.
it up another notch, everybody.
All right. So the other problem that the infrastructure of the internet itself is highly centralized and daisy chained, and itself represents a risk to the internet. So we need mesh nets everywhere.
God.
Okay, and every single building, every single city should be completely connected via mesh nets. And there should be no centralized ISPs at all.
Oh my God, what do you
So how
call
are
the people in
decisions
an
made?
army? So
Man,
he's
If we
okay.
get to
It's
the
totally
end of
paranoid.
that, how are
What do you
decisions
call
made in that?
is he a colonel now? What is he in the Bitcoin army? He's a general or something? Like,
We're still working on the
yeah,
ranks.
he's got to be one of
The
those
rank
with
names.
the flag that's charging, forward and doing it. He's doing
He's a
it.
flag boy.
He's not a flag boy.
No, don't be
No.
calling
I'm
him
just
flag
kidding. I'm
bearer. You're like
kidding.
the
I'm
The
first
guy.
guy to get
No, he's
shot.
the guy
He's,
that's
Yeah, I'm the
he's
he's
red
the one
the
with the
Weird
drum.
spearhead.
guy.
The
What's going on
spearhead
here?
of the movement. What? No, I'm not.
He's got a
He's
cool hat. He's
okay.
got a
What
cool
is the
helmet.
word for somebody who everyone rallies behind? What is that word for a person?
It could be many things.
Let's
But,
come up with
Probably a
it.
captain.
Let's
Probably a captain. A
a
captain. A
captain,
lieutenant.
lieutenant. Okay,
Colonel.
one of those. One of those.
yeah, captain, lieutenant, general, all
Secure
of these things all
sovereign
have different.
is doing shit. He's because you
Colonel.
know why?
Sergeant.
You know why? 'Cause
Sergeant
you could
Sovereign.
just do. Oh my God! Yes, Sergeant Sovereign. But you could just do things, and Sovereign is showing us that he's just doing it. That's fucking amazing. I'm so excited.
Well, when you
So
don't have, well, I'll be honest, when you don't have to trade your time for money at the local McDonald's to survive, that does help.
Yes, it does. Oh my God. And having AI to help
Yeah.
you and having the idea, I'm just blown away just because the node software, it's so, you have GitHub and you have Knots and Core and you have other implementations that are way smaller, but just the idea of thinking that the nodes will be this diverse and the meshnet thing you talked about, spearheading the movement. There we go.
Be, I'm
changing the
about to,
internet completely,
no,
or securing it a little bit better.
so it's funny, I'm actually about to have a meeting with the company that is, tomorrow, I'm going to have a meeting with a company that is developing a technology to make Bitcoin, basically the transmission layer. So you have to pay Bitcoin in order to relay or transmit packets across this mesh net. Which, by the way, I will. I don't know how technical your audience is, but the people in here, I should tell you that if you were to charge for relay and transmission of packets, that would eliminate DDoS attacks and a lot of the spam on the internet almost immediately. So it would align
Oh
incentives
my
in a
goodness. Look at all the smart people you're having a meeting tomorrow to discuss you're the what do we call him? He's the Sergeant
Sergeant Sauber.
Sovereign. He's doing
really
sergeant stuff.
Kirby.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy. Okay, so any other
I honestly,
notches you want to get
I
over?
would like to. No, well, I could go deeper, but I don't want to. I don't want to punish you guys
Oh
too
my
much.
god, it's not a
No,
punishment.
go deeper, dude, because I've learned something new.
Yeah,
So
tell
like
us how it
I
worked
need you to
because
go deeper.
Yes.
we want to know how decisions are made, right? Like decentralization's great until you have to get to making decisions. So how does
Well, it makes complete sense.
that
If you
process
want
work?
something that's
Okay.
decentralized, you can't have one central control. Like there's no risk mitigation.
Killer bees down below again. What happened? Okay, go ahead. Go deeper, Secure Sovereign. Let's do this.
Well, I would just say, so on the subject of the social consensus layer, which seems to be what people want to talk about, I would suggest that we want more people with merge access, but, and this is a big but, we want to increase the barriers to merge. So I would argue there should probably be multiple tiers of merging. So like if you have a consensus level change or you have like a low level security change, these would require different numbers of developers to sign off on in order to get merged.
That's a good idea. So you have more like a multi-sig of decision making, and the bigger the decision is, you have more of them that have to vote, right?
Right. Yes, that's exactly right.
This is good. This is a governance system in Bitcoin, guys. It's happening.
And that would be a consensus layer, so you could have more representation of different implementations. And what you would find if you did implement that system is that governance issues would be resolved probably much more quickly, and issues like op return and knots be core and filters and all this stuff wouldn't have even occurred at all
Oh
if
my
we had a
god.
functioning social
Oh my god.
layer.
Yes, so that's why you're saying it fixes the social layer, because it wouldn't have ever happened if we had this. It's like
I
a
don't know, Stacey.
candy.
Maybe
It's
it
like
would have happened
it's like a
because
candy. No. It's a candy store of nodes. That's what it is. You have a whole shop of it's like a cool candy store. You have a million nodes to pick from. Anyway, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, my bad.
I
That was
feel
my
like
fault. I shouldn't be interrupting you.
I did it. I did it.
hold on. I do have to sort of be the guy, right?
No, don't
I have to.
don't
It's my job.
No,
It's
but
my job.
don't do it. No.
It
Okay,
really
wait.
is
Secure
my job.
Sovereign, get your shield ready so you can defend this argument. Let's go.
No, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not that kind of. It's not that kind of thing.
Okay.
No, it's my only thing is like, and this like within AI, within whatever, like like risk assessment, just attack vectors, all that shit. Because of the fact that it's so big. You understand?
okay.
Like
So this leads to. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, go ahead.
I'm already ahead of you on this one.
Oh,
So this leads to a
That's
separate. This leads to a separate problem, which is how do you verify
He's taking it up a
information,
notch,
right?
guys.
And and so the problem is you can't trust a individual, nor can you trust an individual AI for any specific verification of a claim. So what you need to do is you have to decentralize it, obviously, and you ask multiple AIs and you get them to come to a consensus.
Yeah.
I would say that's how it should be like that. So if you're talking governance structures, that makes sense. But like different nodes, that also makes sense. Like, you can do. I just don't see. you have nodes enforcing consensus, you have miners validating blocks, you got users choosing clients, and you have developers proposing BIPs and reviewing code, right? So to keep that, like, that's the true decentralized governance process. Like, that's what it's through for Bitcoin. So to keep that governance clean and decentralized, you probably need something like code hosting. And you got to be redundant and neutral and censorship resistant. So that's why I guess I get the whole point of why you move away from relying solely on GitHub. How do you feel about ossification?
Someone explain to me that word before you continue. And anyone else in here that doesn't understand.
Well, basically, ossification is like, do we want Bitcoin to change or not? And the people who are pro ossification do not want Bitcoin to change. They're more conservative, and the people who want it to change are, more, I guess, liberal. Personally, I am an engineer first, so I think that there are a number of issues with Bitcoin as it stands that have not been addressed due to the governance failures. I actually don't really think about ossification that much. I am seeing a litany of issues that have remained unaddressed for over a decade now, and that to me is a lot more concerning than whether or not we're going to be, adapting in the future or not. In my mind, we haven't been adapting. Like we've all like, and I'm not saying this is going to kill Bitcoin.
Right.
I'm not selling my
This
bags.
is healthy for Bitcoin,
I'm not,
right?
like,
Because this is because of the whole debate between core and nuts. This has gotten us to think of these questions and think of things maybe you wouldn't have thought of if this whole idea didn't maybe spark up. Probably.
No,
Yeah,
but
right.
ossification requires infrastructure independence. Like, if Bitcoin is to ossify and be unchangeable in, let's just use core, in the core protocol, many believe that's the goal. Then you need, multiple vetted clients. You need source control and just different software builds that are reproducible, right? Anyone can verify that binary is the source code.
Right, but the question isn't source control. That problem has been solved a long time ago. The question is, who has merge access? What is the governance structure of the pull requests, and who can do them and why?
Yes.
Yeah, another consensus layer, right? Bitcoin solved the consensus layer at the transaction level. I mean, if we're needing now consensus at different layers.
Yes. It's
So we need different consensus mechanisms, which are different types of governing organisms.
And I love that he said that if it wasn't for the debate wouldn't have happened if these layers existed, and that's a powerful statement. And I think, I mean, secure sovereign, he's a visionary. I mean, thinking about how your journey started in Bitcoin, he was back with Bitcoin Pizza Day. Like, he was looking up this stuff, playing with his computers, and figuring out this stuff so early on. So I think you just have a vision for things, and you see things that maybe people don't see a lot.
First of all, I just want to say for the record, I am not trying to fix Bitcoin.
No, exactly.
And secondly,
Yeah, you're trying.
I want to hear from Alma. Alma has had her
Yes,
hand
yes,
up?
him.
His
Yes,
hand
so
up.
we will get him up here. Elmo, if you
You
want to
did you call Alma her?
Sorry, sorry.
Tis a mere flesh wound. I've been called worse.
It's true.
Hi, Elma.
Hey, thanks for letting me up. Hey, so I wanted to pop in and speak to Sovereign. So, Sovereign, I don't know if you know my background, but I'm a builder, an architect without the stamp, an engineer without the stamp, all of those by choice at this point. Anyway, so yeah, listening to you, I'm actually fairly new to owning Bitcoin. I've been studying it for 2.5 years, but yeah, from an engineering perspective, what you said makes 100% sense. So I downloaded, the core, and I downloaded Knots,
Yeah.
and then I started looking at all the different, versions of core. And then I watched some podcasts, and they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, what you said makes sense. It's like, all right, if everybody is just running one little version of core, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got, for X amount of percent of the network wants to run knots, and then that's what's either, I don't know what that does to the system or whatever. I'm not advanced enough about the actual engineering mechanics of Bitcoin as I actually probably should be. But anyway, basically looking at it from the software side, I look at it like my architectural and my engineering software and my building. I got to build it. I'm a builder. I'm a developer. I got to develop this property. I got to build this building. All right, and it's all got to work, right? So, but that doesn't mean I can go change the way electricity freaking works, right? So basically, what you're saying is, hey, weed out all this bullshit stuff, right? That's causing all of the spam or whatever that's basically just noise, right? In other words, eliminate the noise, get it back down to the engineering base layer of the protocol, and then follow the protocol the way that was originally intended, step by step, but along the way, building a team of highly talented individuals like yourself that can act as a voice for the rest of us who don't have your talents, so that we all can push that button that says, yep, we want to turn left. No, we want to turn right. But we do it easily and as seamless as possible with as least friction as possible. And part of that least friction,
it's gonna cost more, right? I mean, there's going to be advertising. Advertising is the thing, right? So it's going to be difficult to just get rid of spam because people will pay a little bit.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, like what he said, he said pay, like he said money.
There's a couple things. First of all, if there were consensus changes which are not feasible now, you could disincentivize probably 80 or 90% of spam, period. And also, you probably don't even need to. If you want to get rid of spam, all you really need to do is wait, because the fees will invariably over time make spam cost prohibitive.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a network for it, right? I think it's a private network, right? It's going to be separate. If you want to be part of that, it's going to be separate than what is available to the masses, right? The masses are going to have to live with the advertising.
This isn't about spam, though. The problem is who has the choice, who has the ability to make the cost-benefit analysis and make the choice for all of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Wait, so secure, I'm kind of stuck. Because I get the whole thing that merge access is a soft dictatorship. Like, we've gotten over that, right? Like, right now we trust the current maintainers. And tell me if I have this right? So we trust the maintainers. But Bitcoin is about, like, we gotta verify, right? So why this is super important to me. Like, I don't understand why you said you don't pay attention to ossification, but you pay attention to the social layer, because if you want Bitcoin as anti-fragile, you kind of have to make sure that the base, in my mind, you make sure that the base layer doesn't change, so it stays constant, and it doesn't need any kind of PR merges, and then you diversify the implementation. So you need both.
But I think we said that the base layer can't be.
Hold on. So that's a great point. So I don't really care about ossification, because from a FUD perspective, the risk of Bitcoin changing is a lot less to me than the risk of a major pressure event happening in the community and the 6 people who have access to that merge button making the wrong choice. And that's basically where I come down. Now, I want to get back to Alma's point about the community driving direction. And the fact of the matter is that the barriers of entry to doing sophisticated advanced software development are going to decrease. And the ability for us as a community to do advanced tooling that was not possible before is only going to become increasingly relevant. And so the likelihood that average people with AI could have their own version or own flavor of Bitcoin and then drive it, as you said, in whatever direction they want, is going to become increasingly likely.
We call those
And I
shit
think
coins.
that's
Haven't they been doing that since Bitcoin was created? Isn't that what
Yeah.
Litecoin is and everything else?
It's called shitcoins.
what right, except I am okay. No, I totally.
What we're talking about, so I
but
thought we
I'm
were
not
talking
talking
about
about breaking
mesh
consensus.
networks and
That's
things
funny.
like that.
That is funny, but that's not the direction he was
Right.
going. I
Well,
understand
that is the
direction
direction. If
he's
he's saying
going.
he
It's like,
changes Bitcoin, then it's not Bitcoin.
No, he
Exactly.
in other words, basically he's saying don't change Bitcoin. Leave Bitcoin exactly the way it is.
But I'm
Stop
saying if
messing
anyone
with it.
changes it, it doesn't matter. People can do that. Like he's saying it's an issue that anyone can change Bitcoin, but that's already been an issue for the last 15 years. We've already had
Hold
four.
on.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, so that's a great point. So we need to draw a distinction here between consensus rules and everything else. So if you have a Bitcoin transaction, I'm working on a website right now, and the orange paper, which reverse engineers all of the mathematical proofs inherent in Bitcoin to explain this in technical detail. If you have a transaction that, you know, passes consensus rules and is valid, then it goes on the network. If it doesn't pass those consensus rules, then it's not
Right.
Bitcoin. And that's all there is
Yeah.
to it.
So it's not changing. I mean, you said that earlier. You can't change Bitcoin. That's already been solved already, right?
It's just a trust but verify. That's all it is. It's trust but verify.
Yeah, I think the main point about the 6 owners is valid, but I think that brings in the social question, which is the bigger challenge: is how are decisions made? Okay, if we don't want to trust 6, how are decisions made in a mesh network that's completely centralized?
That's a great question. No, and like I said, I think I see a plurality of strong alternatives instead of core and then knots, which is 99.9% core or 90% core or whatever. We've got a plurality of strong alternatives that are all doing things on their own, and they all perhaps have different ideas about what the governance of Bitcoin is. And as long as they adhere to consensus, that's fine. And we should have that. And perhaps if we did have that, there wouldn't be so much drama and religious, rhetoric and crazy talk.
Agree.
I don't actually agree. I don't think the religious talk, I don't think is crazy. I think people see hope in Bitcoin, and I think people relate that to freedom, and freedom is something that's godly.
Religious,
Hold on.
religious
Let me just
meaning
clarify
like
real quick,
the people that are so religious like over which node they run. Is that what you sort of mean by that?
Yeah, he
okay.
He
Thanks for
meant
confirming.
anal, not religious. Anal. Change that.
Mm-hmm. Like that.
It's the idea of becoming tribal, right? So then we are not really deciding based on our inherent strive for freedom. We are kind of doubling down because I initially supported like one side or the other, and I'm not gonna, like, no questions asked. Like I'm going to make things even if it goes worse. Like I'm gonna probably still double down on my support. Probably that is what
because it's like your belief system in one thing or the other, but it decentralizes that belief system, so it's not such a strong, polarized. Which that's what I think you're trying to get at too. With the whole point of this episode is your attention is being mined, and I think what your entire revelation kind of speaks to is that people's attention has been super mined by this knots core debate, and you are spending so much of your time away from a core issue, not meaning Bitcoin core, but I just mean an issue in governance that people are being distracted from, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I honestly think this whole, like, to me, knots and core are the same thing. Like, I hold knots and core in the same category. There's no functional difference between them in my mind. And so what alternatives are there really if you eliminate that? There's nothing, in my opinion. There's no strong alternatives. And that's what we really need.
Yeah.
And everyone should have the opportunity to make their voice heard, have their opinion, put out there, and they can have their own version of Bitcoin or whatever. That's fine as long as it adheres to consensus. And the problem is, here's the real problem, is that there is a lot of PTSD in the Bitcoin community as a result of block size wars. And there was a lot of governance discussion. I'm going back through the history right now. There was a lot of governance discussion happening in 2014, 2015. Mike Hearn, Gavin Andreessen were bringing these issues to the forefront. And they were bringing them to the forefront under the auspices of wanting to change the block size. However, that does not invalidate the validity of the governance issues that they were raising.
Mm-hmm.
And while the block size war turned into a total shit show and they ended up losing, the points that they made with respect to governance were good
because
points.
it still could have turned out the same way, but it would have been less of a PTSD type situation that people were scarred by, right? You know, so it still could have turned out exactly the same because people would have voted it eventually that way through a different type of government.
Exactly, and we should, as a community, I would argue we should resolve to fix the underlying governance issues before we reach another inflection point, controversy point, where it's already too late, and then the whatever the issue is overshadows the governance issues, like the block size wars did.
Right.
And then those
Well,
governance
that's why I think
are
in the
never
camp, I
resolved.
think in the camp of the people that are running knots, I think that's kind of where subconsciously you feel, because you think that if this issue didn't get raised now, then core would continue to grow as the majority, as the biggest one, and it would be harder to grow other ones, you know, in the future. It would just kind of win. So it's kind of like the whole point of the knots thing. It's like we're already splitting off in one direction. So then you could split off in many, many directions, and everyone can have their own view and not be fervently religious about one side or the other, and everyone can choose their own version, and it can be a diverse like decentralized system.
Yeah, and by the way, this is not a new idea to Bitcoin. These ideas, these governance issues have been discussed by core developers, the inner circle, since the very beginning, pretty much. Like, this is not a mystery. The fact that the issues were known, however, does not necessarily mean that the issues were solved.
Yes, because the people that knew about these issues that were in the inner circle, they should have tried to resolve these issues so that they weren't the major only ones that would make these decisions, right? But maybe because it was known, and not really explored and tried to fix, it's like they were allowed to get away with maintaining control of that network. So now that it's being brought to light, you know, these issues can start to be looked at, you know?
Right, exactly. Well, thank you very
my
much,
gosh.
Stacey. I appreciate your input.
I thank you. I thank you for speaking up, because it's a brave thing. Like you said, when you told some people about it, they said you were going to get attacked, you know? So I think people hearing this, yes, having PTSD
I'm
from
still
past.
gonna attack Stacy.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not fully convinced.
yeah, well, you know, people, that's being paranoid, you know, in a way. Like we want to make sure we're being thorough. That's the thing. But you know, if it doesn't hurt to ask questions, obviously, but as long as you try to learn, you know, the people that ask questions, but they refuse to be critical thinkers and to just be focused on the clickbait or the very attention, the emotional parts of life that continue to make you you know, a battery like in the Matrix. If you want to step outside and look at it yourself and make your own decision, you know, and ask people why. So that's
Okay, so I got a
100%.
quick question. If these have been known for years and not resolved, you know, let's look at the track record of Bitcoin then, right? So uptime, it's always been up, never turned off, supply schedule, untouched.
100%. No, I'm
Consensus
already ahead of
is
you.
unbroken
Agreed.
despite all of the civil wars, and adoption is increasing globally.
I
So
think he's
I
just
can't argue.
Yeah, I think
I
he's
don't
just,
know.
I think, well, I want you to finish your point too, but I think what he's saying is that these things, yes, the block size wars happen, but it would have been less of a stressful, like anxiety inducing situation that when people hear things now, they get all freaked out because they lived through that. And
My
it would have been,
fundamental point, sorry, Stacey, my fundamental
yeah,
point is that Bitcoin's technical consensus layer is arguably perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get compared to everything else. However, the social consensus layer is not consistent with the principles of Bitcoin.
yes, I like that. And go
I
ahead
lost
and
my
go
entire
ahead and.
point that I was trying to
I'm
say.
so
So
sorry,
Please,
Journey.
go ahead. Please go ahead.
no, like I forgot it. You guys cut me off so much. I don't even
I
remember.
am so
I
ADD and I apologize. As soon as you think of it, I'm sure you'll think of it shortly. Come back up and just cut me off next time if I'm in the middle of talking because this happens and I apologize for that journey. But yeah, just try to remember what that point was and what question you had as far as okay, let's all brainstorm. If anyone remembers where he was at, jump up and tell us. Um I think you were trying to say something about the
I
um
don't remember what I asked.
God,
No, okay. So
I'm like a
you were
goldfish.
pointing out all of the strengths of Bitcoin's technical layer and
Yes.
how it
Yes.
survived all this time. There's been all these there's all this drama, there's all these issues, but here we are 15 years later, Bitcoin's fine. What am I complaining about?
Oh yeah, okay, sorry. So do you think social consensus now can um sustain a more restrictive fork? So why I asked that, because like Bitcoin is not a democracy, in my opinion. It's like a voluntary opt-in market layer. You know, the so I don't. So this is the Bitcoin isn't governed like a country or a state. It's governed like a market. You know, so I don't think anyone can force a node to upgrade. I don't think anyone can force a miner to signal, and I don't think anybody can force a user to accept an invalid transaction. So, like, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Bitcoin is a free choice between the buyer and the seller of verification. So I guess the network stabilizes at the rule set with the most voluntary alignment, but I don't see anything changing. Like, sure, we could talk about this. The it's like physics. Electricity tends to follow the path of least resistance. So if we think Bitcoin is energy, and I think it is, then it's no different. So if you try to hard fork in more control, the market will hard fork you out of relevance.
No,
So,
that's exactly true. Yeah,
you know,
that's what we're saying. Yeah, but
Love it.
yeah, go ahead, Secure.
No, I totally 100% agree. Yeah, no disagreement.
100%
okay.
agreed. 100%
So
agreed.
so then
Yeah, the
I guess we're
market,
saying the same thing. Maybe I'm not just wrapping my head around it the same way.
Yeah, no, he's 100% right. You're saying it right. Yeah, you're both saying it. You're saying it on layman's terms. She's saying it on a technical term. You're both saying the same thing.
Right.
By consensus, by even you putting in your money
He said it's
in,
as close to perfect as it can
Okay,
get.
you've
so I
already
agree
voted.
that these governance concerns are real in theory. In theory, right?
But
I
it's
think it's just
showing up.
neutralized in
It showed up,
practice.
but it
You
showed
know,
up in the block size war and it's showing up again now.
Right. That's my point is that under pressure,
but yeah,
like if
unless you're backed by overwhelming, sustained global coercion, and that's exactly what Bitcoin was built to resist. No.
Okay, Bitcoin itself technically was built to resist that, but I'm not sure the social consensus layer is as resilient.
Yeah, the whole thing is the reason Knots is gaining traction and is overtaking Core is because people saw that this was an issue, that Core was pretty much the big boy in the game. They were the one that had the most control and had the most voting power and all that stuff. So it's just something that is a good thing for Bitcoin that this type of thing is happening, and why not keep decentralizing it?
So what you're
and
saying is
I
humans
totally
got
agree.
involved and screwed it up. Is what
But
you're
but
saying.
humans are not the problem. Humans are also they're both. They're the problem and the benefit. Like you social consensus not being there isn't a problem. It's what causes us to actually talk. I always say truth settles in time. If you're going to use things like mesh networks and stuff in order to try and free up or speed up the process of social consensus, I don't think it's going to work. Truth settles in time.
No, I was actually just talking about the potential risks to the Bitcoin network. So I think that actually the Bitcoin network is incredibly secure in and of itself, but the internet is by comparison not as secure as the Bitcoin network. So if I wanted to theoretically attack Bitcoin, it would be cheaper to attack the internet before I attack Bitcoin.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
you
You
want,
can take
Hey,
you
out
know,
let me
the
can
internet.
I
that's
ask
why
a
you want the
question?
private. This is what I was talking about, where you know you do the mesh networks and you have to pay to kind of transact or whatever on it, and you know it stops the DDoSing and all that jazz. But it's just again, it's a different class of transacting, right? It's going to cost to do so, which may eliminate the spam and things like that, but it's going to eliminate the a different class of people, right? You know, it's going to be it's a different class of people transacting in that until it becomes so ridiculously cheap because there are so many mesh networks, like you were saying, because it's just easy to make with AI. So yes, when tech becomes so cheap and so easy to do, and you're like, oh, there's a million of them for me to select, it really costs next to nothing. But and then it's secure and kind of it's like the Lightning Network where it's going to be a channel, right? You're like, oh, I can just go on this channel, it doesn't have spam on it, boom, boom, boom. Or I can go on this channel, maybe it has more spam on it, but
Well,
there's just so many channels that they're not spamming all of them
I
as
agree. I
much.
agree with that, and that's such a good point too. That technology becomes cheaper too. But thinking also of why this would be an important thing when you think about the Bitcoin army, it feels like we are a community that we feel happy being around each other. We're happy, right? But when you look at Bitcoin as a whole lately, what's been going on with this whole debate, you look at the entire Bitcoin community as a whole, and it feels like literally how I started this exact space was the documentary called The Social Dilemma, right? So this is a social dilemma. There's conflict and there's anxiety and there's it's mining a lot of our attention because of this social dilemma that's happening on that layer of Bitcoin. So it's not like it's a base layer issue. It's not like Bitcoin's not working, but the social dilemma is there, and I think that decentralizing that is something that is going to be more of a topic. And I think that it'll be healthy for Bitcoin, but I think that it's just this is the exact type of thing that these social issues would cause so that there's no dilemma in the future. It would just be a more of a happier Bitcoin space, just how the Bitcoin army feels, teaching and learning and being around each other without all this conflict.
All I want to say is that if I wanted to cover up whatever governance issues there were, I would be very happy to see this release valve of the core v. Knots debate raging on while everyone happily ignored what the real issues, the fundamental issues are, and have been ignored for over a decade now.
Do you have a good solution on how this works? I have yet to hear one for 16 years.
Yeah, so we're at the cusp of an AI revolution. And I was just discussing in the channel earlier, I don't know if you just came in or not, but basically what you do is you take Bitcoin Core, you acknowledge that consensus is embedded in the 400,000 lines of C+ code that is Core, and then you take Core, you plug it into an AI, you have it extract all of the mathematical consensus rules and the logical rules and the everything that is of value aside from the C++, and then you use that document as a sort of orange paper to complement your white paper, and then you build a set of basically a real reference implementation, and then from that reference implementation, you build a set of complementary Bitcoin implementations that all have different flavors, maybe different governance models, maybe different things that they do, different rules, different defaults. That's the big debate that we're having about the defaults. So maybe maybe you've got 10 different types of defaults going on, and you can pick whatever you want. And I don't see a problem with that. And
It's
that's,
all
I think,
different
where we're
flavors
going.
of Fug'em, kind of.
So that's what Knots did, right? So just more people doing what Luke did.
Well, okay, so no. Knots is basically a fork of Core, and the vast majority of Knots code is Core. It's probably upwards of 90%. The majority of the changes to Knots are from Core, not from Knots. And that's just the fact. So I tend to consider knots and core in the same category. They are the same thing to my mind. So what we need is a plurality of strong alternatives. What we have is two weak alternatives. We need a plurality. We need a whole set of strong alternatives.
Well, it makes sense, yeah, because when I downloaded Core, or when I had Core running on my computer and I downloaded Knots, it was literally the same program. It just converted to a new name, and it's now Knots. You know, so technically, yeah, I mean, it's just somebody else told me it is, you know, a version of Core. It's just a different, like, you know, spin-off of it, kind of.
And there are different defaults, and I'm not saying Luke hasn't added value, okay? He's added value, he's added more configuration options. There are things there that are worthwhile, okay? I'm not saying Knots is, like, horrible. What I'm saying is that Knots is not the alternative that people think that it is.
So there could be more different, based on whatever, you know, kind of rules that they want as far as the social layer, as far as that, you know, you were saying about the, gosh, I forgot the word for it.
As long as the technical consensus is adhered to, everything else is game. And honestly, the fact that this already hasn't happened kind of surprises me. For all the drama I see on Twitter, all the people who spend their lives in passion, making arguments one way or the other about all of this stuff, if even a fraction of that effort was spent in front of a ChatGPT coding up an alternative, even by a non-coder, we would already be there. We wouldn't even be having this discussion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so I'm really glad you made that point, because I do think a lot of people see them as two sides, right? And you're basically saying it's two sides of the same coin. But I think why we haven't gone further is what will be the cause or the catalyst, right? Like, in essence, like, what do we need to, I'm not saying we don't need to necessarily try that out, but like, what's going to cause us to make that necessary? Because it hasn't been yet.
Hasn't been for 16 years.
It's going to take Samson Mao telling you it's important, I think.
I would. Yeah, but that doesn't affect my
that's not a catalyst, though,
right? Like,
But
I'm
it's
going to
already,
keep
let's
holding
say,
Bitcoin. It doesn't bother me.
well, let's see this. Like, if it's a $2 trillion asset right now, and when we have $50 trillion flooding into Bitcoin, we have more people that are incentivized to have, you know, just Core be the monopoly on node running, and then they could choose all the rules and make the rules.
But it doesn't matter ultimately, right? If consensus is followed, right? That's the
point.
Whole core argument. That's the whole core argument. I like that it's decentralized. I think the Knott's argument is that if Core forces updates and you can't use older versions, then that's the issue.
I think it removes the social dilemma that now, how many hours do you think each of you, since this started, has spent on a Core Knots debate?
I'm in agreement. I think there should be a million different companies doing it, you know, but they can all run off like a Knots, you know. Everyone no one. I don't think it's all Knots versus Core. Everyone knows Knots is a version of Core. It's just not controlled by Core. That's the whole issue. So everyone go spin off an older version of Core, whatever have you, and call it your own. Put a spin on it, you know. Put a cool logo on it, and so be it. You know, okay, sure. Oh, you don't have a developer.
But you don't think
I don't care. I like the version.
in the community, let's say the split in the community, you like the version, they like the Core version, right? So then there's always going to be this community of
Have you heard of
Bitcoiners that are like,
Nakamoto consensus, Stacy?
have I heard of Nakamoto consensus?
That's correct.
No, tell me about it.
Nakamoto consensus is, and I think Thunderous pointed this out. Thunderous Horse pointed this out in the comments of your space. Whatever social rules you try to implement will be subverted by the lowest common denominator. So if Nakamoto consensus is valid, you can't stop it. Social rules will eventually relax to the maximum of what Nakamoto consensus allows, and anything else requires a hard fork.
I think that when we see this asset grow by $50 trillion or more, we're going to have to see if that's still the case. If there isn't a split in community values, and if there isn't this religious sort of anger towards each other for not doing one or the other thing, I still feel like there would be a social dilemma, and it would cause a lot of people to spend too much of their time on this topic.
No, but everyone's 25
I got a question for everybody.
They don't care.
I got a question for everybody. Is there going to be another fork in Bitcoin in its lifetime?
No.
You can't really guarantee that.
How could
Honestly,
you, if
I'm
it's if
telling you.
it's at a trans as a consensus level, and if there is a fork, then it'll happen just like the other coins did. The majority of the network stays with
That's
Bitcoin.
yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Is
Right.
that low? Like people, you can't solve a
That's the
social
question.
dilemma
I want
problem.
to know if there's going to be another big one.
But you
Will there
couldn't
be another
solve, you
big
couldn't,
one?
no, I don't think so. And you couldn't solve a social dilemma problem before you had tools to help you do it in a shorter amount of time, because before it would take, I mean, maybe it would be impossible before 16 years. I mean, imagine how much AI has changed in the last 2 years.
It's just a fast data parser.
Yeah, exactly. And it's allowing you to solve a social issue. I think so. You know what I think? I think that if anyone wants to do any of this stuff and try to, people don't have to use it, right? But if it's there and it's available for people, I think it's like, why not try to decentralize things? It's not like it's
I
changing
agree
Bitcoin.
with the whole decentralization, Stacy. I'm just saying that with social dilemma, okay, with social dilemma, and it's like energy. If we agree that Bitcoin is energy, then energy is something that follows the path of least resistance. And if
I
you look at
agree.
social consensus, then people will follow the lowest common
But
denominator.
are people arguing and shit talking each other over this topic? Are they?
Like,
Is
what do
it
you, what do you
peaceful and
mean?
harmonic?
Yes.
Is
They
there
are.
harmony?
But that's just the
Yes.
time, Stacy. They're shit
Right.
talking over everything. You
Like
know,
you're
this
not
was the
gonna,
other
yeah,
point
you're
I
not
want
gonna
to
stop
make
shit
is
talking.
people are sowing chaos. That's what the killing of Kirk was about. They're just pitting two sides against each other. So
And this
that's
is
just
what's happening
part
in
of the
Bitcoin
time.
now. Right. And this is the times that, do you want this to continue
Yeah,
into
but we're
however
having
many
healthy
years?
debates. I feel like for the most
Mhm.
part, at least in Bitcoin Army, we debate a lot of these things, but we're all going to go buy more Bitcoin tomorrow, and
Oh
that's the
yeah, of
lowest common
course.
denominator. To Journey's point is,
Did anyone bring up
yeah.
the Arctic frost thing that was going on in the news today? No.
No,
No.
I was
You
very
know,
busy today.
What is
wow.
that?
It's like the name of I guess investigation or whatever that was going on under Biden administration, and basically targeting Charlie Kirk and like 92 other Republicans. They literally
I
like
did.
Google it. A
I
normie
didn't see that. Yeah.
told me about it earlier
And
today,
how many,
and I
and
was like,
I
oh
wonder
man.
how many people, maybe there's stories like this that have come out that have diverted your attention because of social issues in Bitcoin, like things that you're watching
Yeah,
as far as
look up
coins.
Arctic frost, right? You know,
Right.
go look
And
up
that's what
Arctic
I
frost.
mean.
You'll see it all in the news today.
And how many people maybe didn't know the story because they're too distracted by other things. I want to know real quick, Killer Bee, we haven't heard from you for a while.
Actually, I was away. Sorry,
It's okay.
I was saying goodnight to my daughter. Sorry.
Okay. Well, if you want to, jump in and say anything, if you're available at any point, go ahead. But yeah, I think these are all
Well, no,
healthy
wait.
debates, and
So
these are.
are we changing? Are we taking all the power away? Are we rationing the power? Is that how we're
I
doing
think
it?
I like the rationing the power idea, but I think that's there's an argument here that it doesn't matter. We don't need to do that,
Okay.
and I think that
I
we
think
do.
people will ration power if they want to, and
Why
people
wouldn't
won't.
power
You
in
know.
the hands of all of us
Right. That's how
be
I feel.
necessary?
Yeah, I think rationing power is a good thing, but I think that people like there are arguments that it's not necessary, that we don't need to do that, because that it doesn't matter because Bitcoin is energy and it's
Well,
and
we don't
it
need to
is what
do
it
it
is.
now, or we don't need to do it
We don't
ever.
need to
Like
do
I'm
it
just
now, right?
okay.
Like when we do need to do it, I feel like the knots thing came up pretty quick. In my
Right.
opinion, is with AI, we could do it very quickly,
Oh,
right?
secure sovereign left.
Oh.
Did he just try to hard fork the army and dip? Hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just asking questions.
I want to see what
He's
he puts together.
he's a legit. I love that guy. So if I'm paranoid about anything, I think he's a badass. So
I'm so
thank
paranoid.
you, thank you for covering the room while I was taking care of family.
Oh yeah. And I appreciate everybody. I think this is very healthy to talk about and get people to think about. I think this is a very important discussion. And even if people don't think it's an important one at all, I think it still gets you thinking and wondering.
So Stacey, the key takeaway really is that people have to understand that it's not just one option versus the other. It's like you can create your own option, just so that there is broad, let's say, access to doing what is best
Broad
for
access.
humanity. Yeah, that's where the real debate falls under. At least that's how I see it.
Jeeves
If
has the
AI can
aerial
really
view
help,
on things, I think.
yeah, that's probably because I'm a systems engineer. I'm kind of thinking in that in that big picture view. But
And
the
you're
idea
also
is
very
that
zen.
for the most part.
For the most part, except when you yell fuck you to people. So
so the idea is that we have to educate, like this is how we probably end up educating ourselves, right? There are tools which we can probably use to our advantage. When I say to our advantage, I mean like broad consensus, where we can spin up a version that will let's say maintain the sanctity of the network and not fall under some centralized group of people who think they are above everybody else, and they can just shove their attitude in everyone's face. That's why I'm running knots, because I fucking hate the way these
yes.
these core people are being right now. It's just
Smug, right?
it's just
Smug.
it's just ridiculous, right? So it's a way, like, just running knots is my way of voting against core at the moment. That's how I'm seeing it. And if core goes rogue, I'm going to say fuck you to core.
Yeah, right.
If not goes rogue, I'm going to say fuck you to not. That's how I am doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because you are voting for Bitcoin. You're not fucking voting for a group of developers. Like, they are working for the network.
Right.
Your alignment for values and principles should be with the network,
We should
not
be
with the
paranoid about
developer.
all these motherfuckers, right? We should be paranoid
Yes,
about,
yes.
whoever it is. We're
You
voting for
you have
Bitcoin and
you're kind of saving your life energy so that you can enrich in all the positive sense, right? Enrich your bloodline even after you're gone. That's how you probably think about Bitcoin, or you should. If you aren't thinking about it and you have a high time preference, then yeah, you're just you're just playing the
yeah,
fiat game all over again in the name of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just a guise for you. Then it's just another silly excuse for you to play fiat games. What I'm
yeah.
talking about is how you want to enrich your entire your entire life energy to help your bloodline. That's what Bitcoin is all about. So think about it in those terms, and not about core, or what Knots is doing in defiance to core. Whether or not it's effective is a secondary discussion. Let's get to the point where we understand what we are fighting for or what we are fighting against.
Yes.
That's where I am, right? Bitcoin is not just a line of code and not ones and zeros only. It has many layers of truth and reality on top of it that you have, and principles and your values on top of
Well,
it
and
that
see a lot of
makes it
people,
valuable,
right? And you see a lot of
right?
people that do have arguments against core, which against knots, which I'm running knots, and I agree with knots at the moment, right? But people think that because Luke is a single point of failure too, so it's like instead of having just core, then now we have knots and core that are the two main ones. But why not have many more? So if any of
Yes,
those start to fuck up, or we
it is.
believe, oh, we should have more options
Yes,
and not let those two
exactly.
get big as trillions flow into this market.
There is
And
no room for tribalism when it comes to preserving, the value system, the truth system. You cannot be tribal. If you have to be backing, the only thing you have to back is the truth,
right.
right?
But
Just
Chiefs,
like
that's what
what
we
Journey
did though in
says,
the
right?
past. There were
Yeah, I mean
tribes.
that's exactly. I mean, you're gonna fall on one or the other category when it's two sides, fighting over what has to be defined as Bitcoin, as a network or as a product. At this point, it's almost like you know people want it to be a I don't know, a scrapbook with junk put on it on one end, and that's how I see it, and versus someone who doesn't want it to be. So the idea is there will be divisions, there will be fractures, but it will be healthy, because it's like your immune system, right? When if you know you're healthy when your immune system is fighting. If it's not fighting, then there's a problem, right? So there is chaos in a lower level, but at a higher level, there's harmony. So that's how we have to really kind of approach this problem.
Yes, it's the yin and yang. You need both. You need this chaos is good for Bitcoin. Anything's good for Bitcoin, right? It's all good. I want you to say what you have your hand up, Journey, and I also want John to speak because he's been. But thank you so much, Jeeves, for that perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree with. Like, I mean, everything Jeeves says is like mind blowing to me. So he's like,
He's a wise man.
I want to bring back.
I hate to be the guy. I hate to be the guy again, but it is 9 o'clock.
Well, I think this question is a lot more important, to be honest.
Okay, go for it.
And because you guys brought up something which is kind of concerning. You said rationing power. And you said some people said that you don't actually need it or it doesn't matter. To ration power, okay, just to explain that to people listening, rationing power is like limiting the number of people who can act, controlling access to influence, or like, just deliberately reducing who gets a say or the ability to change an outcome, right? So, if we look at Bitcoin, that means who gets like merge access, who proposes BIPs, who gets to validate or enforce rules, and who gets to mine. Great questions, right? I just think power doesn't exist to ration, right? Rationing implies someone controls the supply of power. Like, that's what it implies. And Bitcoin, I don't think agrees with that, right? Like, the ideal system has no central power to ration. So in a free market, you compete. In Bitcoin, you verify. And almost in liberty, you remove coercion, right? So the very existence of rationed power to me is a red flag that the system isn't truly decentralized. Because why rationing power doesn't matter, I think you can't stop someone from running a node whatever they want to. You can't stop someone from running an old version of Core, doing their own filters on it, calling it freaking Nupo, I don't know, whatever, and then saying it's a new thing like knots. It does. You can't stop someone from mining. You can't stop someone from verifying their own truth. Like, Jeeves said, Bitcoin should be about, enriching your bloodline to you, right? Is rationing power good? In a fiat system, sure, maybe to prevent like a collapse. But that, like, if you look at the bare bones aspect of that, I love to go down to the bare bones, because if you look at it, it's just managing failure, right? And why is that irrelevant in Bitcoin? Because no one has the legitimate authority to ration it anyways. And the second they try, you'll fork. So power isn't allocated. I think it's verified, not something that should be rationed out, in my opinion.
Thank you, Journey. Thank you for sharing that perspective. We also have to finish up because you have your space coming up, which is next, and we have John here, who I want to speak since you've been waiting so patiently, and then we can all move over to Journey's space.
And thanks, Stacey. Yeah, I think, I live here, in San Francisco, and I literally walk my dog, walking her now, and I walk past the San Francisco Federal Reserve, and then I continue walking, and I walk past the headquarters of Visa. These are two huge centralized entities, right? And everything, the ledger, national, that our fiat currencies on a ledger, and our Visa, where we make all these transactions, are on a centralized ledger where the common person cannot see it. And my whole view is, I run knots and I can actually take my Bitcoin off of River and actually see it come to Sparrow, and I can actually at the same time see the transaction go by on the knots. And I mean, that's powerful. And you cannot do that on Visa. You know, you cannot see that on Visa. And to me, the whole core knots thing is, you know, what Jeeves are saying is really tribalism. I mean, who cares what you run at your own home in your, you know, in your own office, bedroom, living room. It doesn't matter, you know, what you do, and it shouldn't matter. You have your privacy, and so if you want to run knots, or if you want to, you know, and with AI, like the other individual was saying, if you know, in the future, this is going to be probably 50 trillion, 60 trillion, maybe even $100 trillion running through Bitcoin one day in the future, and there's going to be lots of different ledgers going around. And somebody, this is like today, like the internet, if you want to run Facebook or if you want to run Instagram, you can do that. And same thing could be on these ledgers. If you want to run an Instagram ledger with Bitcoin, there'll probably be something like that in the future. So be it. If you want to do that, go ahead. I don't want to do that. I don't like Instagram. So I just want a pure, simple ledger that I can see my transactions on. I don't want to see a bunch of BS on it. And so I think everybody can do what they want. There doesn't have to be this tribalism. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do think that is a great perspective. Thank you, because you know it's everyone's gonna have their opinion, right? Everyone, and that's why I think it's okay, because you know in the future Bitcoin is still only $2 trillion, and I think in the future as it grows that much bigger, there might be so many more companies trying to do their own versions of things, and maybe they're going to back core or not. Maybe a lot of these companies coming into Bitcoin are going to want to see certain changes and back one of these companies. So you just never
And
know.
also Stacy, it's important to follow the incentive, right?
Right.
I put something up on the nest that kind of forces that beyond this argument about you know which node to run or which version to run on your node.
Thank you for sharing.
The
Yes.
government kind of is going to play their game while you know people are infighting.
Right.
The idea
And that's what
is
you have to look
that
for.
we have. That's why we have to be paranoid, right?
And maybe all this
Look
fighting is
out.
to get, yeah, maybe it's all this fighting is to get big people that have, you know, big money and big incentives to fight over one or the other and really be hardcore about it, so that they can then in the future more companies coming into Bitcoin can back more of these, you know. So follow those incentives, let it be more decentralized, so you don't have to just end up with, instead of just one like core, you don't have to end up with just two before it's not decentralized enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, either way,
Look
Bitcoin
at
is
what's
Bitcoin, but it's
happening, right?
just what if they,
Like
yeah.
look what's happening right now with the two-party system.
Right.
It's almost like a uni-party right now,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody feels like it, but
Yeah.
and everybody gets hosed for the same
And there's
reason
so
because
much
we don't know what's
fiat
happening.
backing, right? So much fiat is backing both parties, and both parties are doing crazy
Yeah.
things. So in the
So
future,
follow
it
the
could be
incentives, right?
two nose parties that are following the money that's paying them the most. You know, they could be
Yep.
doing what
Yep.
they feel like is the best thing, and maybe we don't want to follow the rules. You know, maybe we want to break the rules a little bit, but
Right. Right. And
not the consensus rules, right? Yeah, not those.
correct. You want to keep it. You know, immune to these external entities. Nothing has to be more sacred than the consensus.
Yes.
That's the whole point of keeping your freedom. Like it Bitcoin really guards your freedom as long as you guard Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I
So
think as long as you're
it's
down, yeah,
equal exchange.
right. As long as you're down with decentralization and Bitcoin staying decentralized and secure, then part of that security and that decentralization should be on a social layer. Why not? It's not hurting Bitcoin. It's not changing consensus rules. So even if it doesn't work, why not try? I mean, they say you don't know if it works unless you try. You know, so if people just don't try, it's just going to be the way it is. But you know, if you try and people do it, cool, it's not going to change Bitcoin. So what does it matter anyway? But why not have decentralization all throughout Bitcoin? Why have it be a small group of people that make any choices for us?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. That's how
I
it
like to
should
see
be.
it. Yeah, I mean, I like to see like 100 different ledgers, like, like the car
Mm-hmm.
companies, we used to have, before General Motors and Ford and Chrysler, we used to have like 100 car companies. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we have 100 different ledgers running?
Yeah, I
A
don't
lot
I
of
don't see
people
why
lost
it's
their money on the wrong one. I mean, I think it's inevitable to go through cycles of centralization and decentralization, and the world is going to decentralization. So I actually think what he was saying and what Stacy's saying is inevitable. Like everything will become more decentralized, but there's a lot of challenges. If you start decentralizing everything, it's a lot harder to make decisions and to have control, and things can get chaotic very quickly
you're
or
right.
or ineffective.
It could be ineffective, it could get chaotic, but yes, it could sway people that aren't, let's say some people think, just like how we hear all the time about people thinking that there's going to be a new Bitcoin. And we know that's not going to happen. There's no new Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the thing. But, when you have all this money pouring into Bitcoin and getting so much bigger, what if people come in and try to sway some of those people that don't know the difference between consensus rules and not consensus rules? And they think, hey, this is the new Bitcoin. And they get them to believe in some other shitcoin that's not going to be Bitcoin. So there's going to be more money and more power to pretty much like try to shitcoin the node part of Bitcoin in maybe into a fork. Maybe they're going to convince a bunch of people that are getting into Bitcoin that this might be the new Bitcoin. That might be what happens, and that sucks because money has really good marketing teams and they can do shit that they can do. But that's why it's important for communities like the Bitcoin Army and to keep teaching and showing that it's important to run a node, but also to to know what Bitcoin is and why it's important, and the consensus rules matter. And there isn't going to be a second Bitcoin. Those are all things that as Bitcoin grows, it's going to get a lot more gullible
Did
people
you just
that
write the
haven't been here.
Constitution?
I
The
think
10, 10
you're
amendments? Yeah.
pretty much. I don't know. It feels very powerful what I just said. I don't know. So it's all of you guys. It's because of you guys in this conversation. So thank you everybody. I appreciate all of you for speaking. This was an incredible space. I love all the perspective and all the different views. It's important for Bitcoin to have that. We can't just have everyone that agrees on anything. So thank you, Journey, and thank you anyone who came up and had a different view. We want to have different views and we want to think. We don't want to have our brains become stagnant. We don't want to be manipulated, right? So it's good to challenge ideas. So thank you everybody. And I just want to say this space is sponsored by Fluggo. I'm going to do it. So and that's it. I'm not going to go into the whole spiel, but Journey, have a great space. I'll see you over there. Everybody come join Journeyman Space for the Wandering Road. And thank you, Killer B, for being here and for, being a part of this conversation, and for everybody. Thank you for all of you paranoid people who will refuse to be mined. So everyone have a good night. Take care.